Dear students, welcome to my channel. In this video, we shall do a worksheet on subordinating conjunction. But first, what are conjunctions? Conjunctions are joining words. What will they join? They will either join two words or a word with a phrase or two phrases. Okay, now one of the kinds of conjunction is your subordinating conjunction. Now, what does the word subordinating mean? Subordinating conjunction is a word which is used to combine an independent clause and a dependent clause in a sentence. Now, you know, students, that sentences have phrases and clauses. But for a subordinating conjunction to occur, we have to have clauses in a sentence. And what kind of sentences clauses should be there in the sentence? One should be an independent clause and the other should be a dependent clause. Now, what do you understand by independent clause? Independent clause is a clause which can exist on its own. It need not be joined any other clause to make sense. As we know, sentences should make sense grammatically, they should be correct. So, independent clause can exist on its own. It does not need to be joined to any other clause. But a dependent clause, as the name itself, dependent, matlab it has to depend on some other clause. It has to be joined to some other phrase or word to make sense. So, this work is done by a subordinating conjunction which will combine a dependent clause and an independent clause and make a meaningful sentence. For example, because it was raining, we stayed indoors. Now, students, can you identify which sentence is making sense on its own? Is it the first one, because it was raining, or is it the second one, we stayed indoors? Now, we stayed indoors. What are the main things which are required for a sentence to make sense? One is your subject, okay. Second is your verb, and third is your object, okay. Now, because we have the subject we and we have the verb stayed and we have the object indoors, we stayed indoors is making sense on its own and is an independent clause. But this first sentence, because it was raining, what sense does it make? Because it was raining, what did I do? Did I carry an umbrella? Did I stay indoors? Did I go outside? It is not making any sense on its own. Because it was raining खुद से कुछ मीनिंग नहीं कन्वे करता है, लेकिन वी स्टेट इंडोर्स इज मेकिंग सेंस। तो इन दोनों को ज्वाइन करता है आपका एक कंजंक्शन। कौन दोनों को? एक डिपेंडेंट क्लॉज जो कि बिकॉज इट वाज रेनिंग है इस एग्जांपल में, और एक इंडिपेंडेंट क्लॉज जो कि है वी स्टेट इंडोर्स को ज्वाइन कर रहा है आपका सबऑर्डिनेटिंग कंजंक्शन बिकॉज इट वॉज रेनिंग। सो ये जो है शब्द आपका बिकॉज, ये आपका सबऑर्डिनेटिंग कंजंक्शन है। ऐसे ही और भी कंजंक्शंस है, सबऑर्डिनेटिंग कंजंक्शंस, जिसको हम इस वर्कशीट में आइडेंटिफाई करेंगे। ओके, नाउ बिफोर वी गो ओवर टू दिस वर्कशीट, व्हाट टू थिंग्स वी हैव टू आइडेंटिफाई? We have to identify the dependent clause and we have to identify the independent clause first. Only then we will be able to answer this, which is the subordinating conjunction. Now I will go when it stops raining. अब I will go एक क्लॉज हुआ, it stops raining दूसरा क्लॉज हुआ, ठीक है। when it stops raining दूसरा क्लॉज हुआ। I will go is the independent clause, when it stops raining is the dependent clause। मैं कब जाऊंगा? जब बारिश रुकेगा। तो ये मेरे जाना डिपेंडेंट है जब बारिश रुकेगी। एंड इन दोनों सेंटेंसेस को कौन जोड़ रहा है? आपका when subordinating conjunction जोड़ रहा है, ठीक है। So that is how you will identify. Let us go to the second one for better understanding. She stopped. Now, why did she stop? She stopped because she was tired. So, she was tired is the independent clause. She stopped. Why did she stop? Because she was tired. So this stopping of her is depending on because she was tired. So the conjunction will be because. Okay, unless you have a ticket. अब देखिए ये सेंटेंस unless you have a ticket, क्या ये कुछ मीनिंग बना रहा है? नहीं। तो ये आपका हुआ डिपेंडेंट क्लॉज, ठीक है। अब clauses you can't get in. I'm just passing certain instructions, you can't get in. इसका समझ में आ रहा है आपको? You can't get in, अगर मैंने आपसे बोला you can't get in, can't मतलब you cannot get in, ये आपको समझ में आ रहा है कि आप अंदर नहीं जा सकते, बस समझ में आ गया? तो ये आपका हुआ इंडिपेंडेंट क्लॉज, ठीक है। बट अगर मैं आपको बोलूं, जस्ट बोलूं अनलेस यू हैव अ टिकट, क्या समझ में आ रहा है आपको? कुछ भी नहीं, कि कहाँ जाना है, क्यों जाना है, नहीं जाना है या जाना है, कुछ समझ में नहीं आएगा। So this is a dependent clause. And what is the conjunction which has to be added? So in this sentence, as we have identified, unless you have a ticket is a dependent clause because it doesn't make sense on its own, and you can't get in is a independent clause because it has some meaning when you use it on just you can't get in on its own makes sense. But these two sentences, to make it more meaningful, we add the subordinating conjunction unless over here. Okay, like over here in the second one we used because as the subordinating conjunction, and in the first one we used when. Then only these three sentences, after joining the subordinating conjunctions only, they made sense. Okay, now let us go to the fourth one and try to identify which is the dependent clause and which is the independent clause and which is the subordinating worksheet. Even though college is an exciting time, comma, it can be stressful. Okay, now it can be stressful is making sense on its own, so it is a independent clause. Okay, but even though college is an exciting time, what next? What meaning does it convey? Even though college is an exciting time, do I enjoy it or do I not enjoy it? That's not conveying any other meaning except even though college is an exciting time. So this is your dependent clause, even though college is an exciting time. Now, we have to identify which is the subordinating conjunction, which when used makes these two sentences meaningful. Even though. So your subordinating conjunction here is even though. Okay, because only when we add it are we getting to understand that even though college is an exciting time, it can be stressful. 5. It means that they will only work if you are in the country they are showing in the list. Now, you are in the country they are showing in the list. This part of the sentence makes sense on its own. So this is independent clause. Now, it means that they will only work. It means that they will only work. Does it make any sense? No. So, it means that they will only work is your dependent clause. And what does it depend on to make a meaningful sentence? It depends on the subordinating clause. If it means that they will only work if you are in the country they are showing in the list. Now, number 6. Unless it rains, we will go to the beach. We will go to the beach on its own is making sense. So this is a independent clause. And it rains. What if it rains? Do I carry an umbrella? Do I take a raincoat? Do I not go in the rains? What? So it rains is your dependent clause. And when we add the subordinating conjunction unless it rains, we will go to the beach. अगर बारिश नहीं हुआ तो हम बीच जाएंगे. Okay. Next, they might see me if we wait here long enough. They might see me. We wait here long enough. Now these two sentences, which one makes sense on its own? They might see me makes sense on its own. So this is the independent clause. If we wait here long enough, doesn't convey any sense. So this is a dependent clause. And these two are joined by your subordinating conjunction if. They might see me if we wait here long enough. Okay. Now, the eighth one. Now, the eighth one. Since I don't want to get fired, I work hard. I work hard is your independent clause. Okay. Because it has a subject, verb, also. Now, since I don't want to get fired is the dependent clause. And these two sentences are made meaningful only when they are with the subordinating conjunction since. Okay. So this is how you will identify your subordinating conjunctions. First, you will see the dependent clause, the independent clause, and then the subordinating conjunction which is joining them. Now, when I was little, someone drove by my house on Halloween holding a jack-o'-lantern and honking the horn. Now, the sentence when I was little makes no sense. Is it conveying any further meaning? No. When I was little. So this is the dependent clause. Okay. Someone drove by my house on Halloween holding a jack-o'-lantern and honking the horn. This makes full sense. So this is the independent clause. Now, how do I know when I was little has to be added to this independent clause to make a meaningful sentence? When I'm adding the subordinating conjunction when. So if somebody asks you to identify subordinating conjunctions, generally you will find that the subordinating conjunction is in the dependent clause. Okay, so that is how you have to be very thorough with how to identify a dependent clause and an independent clause. Now, next we will do the 10th one. He spends most of his time watching television. Okay, he spends most of his time watching television while I read books. Now, while I read books doesn't make any sense on its own. So this is the dependent clause. And he spends most of his time watching television makes sense on its own. Therefore, it is an independent clause. Okay. Now, what did I say? Generally, the subordinating conjunction is associated with the dependent clause. So, while is the subordinating conjunction over here. Now, 11th one. Make a pie. Okay, it is make a pie. In case he comes over tonight. Now, these are two parts of the sentences. One sentence is make a pie. This is independent because I am clearly understanding that you are asking me to make a pie. In case he comes over tonight, doesn't make any sense. It is a dependent clause. So, we will have to identify our subordinating conjunction in the dependent clause in case. Okay. Now, the 12th one. The movie was starting now that they were finally here. The movie was starting. It makes sense. Independent clause. Okay. Now, now that they were finally here. Now that they were finally here is a dependent clause. It has to depend to on another sentence. It has to be joined to another sentence in order to make proper sense of its own. So that part which associates this dependent clause to the independent clauses now that. Okay. Now, 13th one. I know you can do it. I'll see you whenever we have a team meeting tomorrow. Okay. Now, here the subordinating conjunction is whenever. Now, it's so cold outside right now, so I decided to stay home. So, I decided to stay home. If my memory serves me well, I think I once had the honor of eating dinner with Emperor Joseph II of Australia. If my memory serves me well. Because this part of the sentence, if my memory serves me well, is the dependent clause. On its own, it doesn't make any sense. But if you add it to the independent clause, I think I once had the honor of eating dinner with Emperor Joseph II of Australia. It makes complete sense. Okay, students. So this is how you will identify your dependent clause, which needs to be attached to an independent clause along with a subordinating conjunction so that it makes complete sense. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe and keep notification button on so that when I post a new video, you are notified about it and you can study from it. Please like, share and subscribe students and all the best.